could feel the breaking of my cold stone heart was about to begin. The moment that we locked eyes, now everywhere you go, my eyes follow close. And I'm just waiting for the time to be right to tell you how I've loved you for a while. Oh, my heart is going wild. You wear me down like when the sea meets earth. I fade away
Right, good evening, everyone, and welcome. It is another night with Summer Carousel Horse, so we're going to get started here shortly. But welcome, my name is Cariana, and I am a cross stitcher as well as other types of creative endeavors I do, painting and other types of things. But tonight we are cross stitching, and so we'll be getting started here. This is now we're into day 3 of this Summer Carousel Horse. Probably not stitching as fast as I would at home when I'm not on camera, but got about 4 hours into this, so we'll see how this is going, and we'll keep going here, working on the horse's stomach here on this 28 count fabric. So I can remember exactly where I am. So I know it's a little on the later side for some people tonight. I know it's getting up into the evening here. Hopefully we'll get my little one down to sleep in just a few. She is a little wound up from her day, but she's doing pretty good. And the other noise is probably the dog. She's munching away on her dinner right now. Late dinner for the dog. Husband and I got home late today. But I hope everyone out there is having a good night tonight. Not working too hard or having a good evening. So we'll see how far I get in tonight into this. We'd like to get a good, nice and established to see how it's looking more like a carousel horse and less like a bunch of funny shapes. Go. And I am working on 28 count Joblin. I'm working over 2, so instead of going into every over 1, going over 2 to make my crosses. So it's more like working on 14 count. So the finish size is like a 14 count, even though I'm stitching on 28 count. I am using DMC floss. I've actually never used any other floss but DMC. Growing up, I was told that was the best. So that is what I have stuck with all these years. This project also calls for more than just DMC. I'll be using Krennic metallics, using some of their blending filaments as we get into the golden pole of the carousel horse. So this one doesn't seem to have too much blending filament, which is nice because that can get kind of frustrating as it kind of pulls and it isn't as flexible as the cotton embroidery floss is. But overall, this seems to go very well. I did miss a couple stitches, which I may take care of off stream, so it's only a stitch here and there. I'm not going to be doing a bulk of this off stream yet. I've still got so many other projects I'm working on. I did finish up the 3rd page of my Goose and Tulip stitch that I'm doing with Sarah Nadia and her crafting community. So that's going to be nice, getting that kind of squared away. I have one more little page left, hoping to still have it done by the end of the month. That will bring me down from 7 works in progress down to 6, so hopefully I won't try to start another one. I try to keep my works in progress down to a lower number. It isn't always the case. I've got quite a few going on right now. It's so much more fun to start a project than it is to finish one, though it is very satisfying to finish up a project. So hopefully coming up soon color-wise, I'll get to do a blend of colors so you can see what that looks like. When you do blended colors is when you use a strand, two different strands of two different colors. So here I'm using two strands of the same color to give that fill, whereas if I do a blended color, it'll be one strand of one color and one strand of another color, which adds for some great gradation effects in cross stitch. Sometimes you can't get that pretty gradation with what DMC has available in their color lines. So by mixing two colors together, you can get a more gradual gradation, which can be really, really nice. Somehow I have found some Christmas music on my Spotify. Let's fix that. It is definitely not the right time of year for that. There we go. Hey Elf, how are you doing? I was just changing the music over. Somehow Christmas music popped up, and that was just a little odd for this time of year. I wasn't up for Christmas. Let's see. I hope your evening's going pretty well. Stuck in a conundrum with the job decisions. At least that's a good conundrum to be stuck in, where you have options, whereas before you were in the other conundrum of not having a job. I know you're still looking for one, but it's better to have a couple options than to have no options. I'm getting to the point where I need to start looking for a different job. I work in customer service. It's only fun for so long before you need a break from it, dealing with the public. We agree, but I'm really thinking of finding a job for a position I don't even have a guaranteed interview with. Yeah, that's that's the tough part. It's like, do you take the chance and go for the position that you don't have an interview with yet, or do you take the job? It's a conundrum either way. I wish I had an easy answer for you. Unfortunately, I don't. Go with your gut is my best advice, and hopefully that will lead you the way that you'd like to go. For me, the uncertainty of what to do or where things are going is, pardon me, always difficult. I don't do as well if I don't have at least a slight outline of a plan going forward. Not always the most spontaneous person. You just don't think you'd be happy doing this one job. A big portion of it is doing collection calls, and you're not good at those. Yeah, I could not do that myself. I have enough problems calling people to tell them their library books are overdue at the library center I work at. So I can only imagine that calling on collections is even less fun. I've totally forgotten what color it is I'm working on, so to make sure I put it up back with the right color. Trying to keep my floss more organized while I'm streaming so I don't have to come later after I'm done and go, okay, what color was this? What did I do with that? And that's why you're doing these thoughts now. It seems like Kennings before you hatch, but that's also the job the recruiter wanted me to go for, so he seems very sure of being a good fit for you. Well, that's always good. Cross your fingers that the recruiter has found the right fit. But I do agree, it does sound like counting chickens before they hatch. But sometimes you have to count your chickens, so you have an idea how many are going to hatch. Yeah. And this color is, yes. So moving on to the next center part of the horse's tummy, going into some 415. I seem to be using this color in 2 other of my cross-stitch projects. So I have a lot of 415 running around. It's always interesting to see what colors tend to get used a lot in different projects. Obviously white and black get used a lot. When you went on to day 1 to meet with the recruiter, they mentioned the company as a hope, but else they weren't posting any positions right then. So when he called Day, said they were going to be looking soon. It kind of threw a wrench in your plans. Yeah, I can see why that would definitely throw a wrench in your plans. Had things kind of lined up for one thing, and now you've like, oh wait, but this is the thing I really want. Hey Hikari, welcome. How you doing today? You also get a lot of 415, 414, 415 colors. Yeah, it's a good neutral gray. The 415s and stuff. I find they're like the pearl grays and the steel grays. So let's get this horse's tummy flushed out before we move back into the saddle. Find a fun color to do next. Isn't the dogs through time using like this same color palette? At least the 415s and the 414s. 3768. I don't think I've ever used 3768. I'm using a lot of 3325 right now, and that one came up in the Goose and Tulips, but not as much as it is with my fish. I will say taking a break from the fish to finish up Goose and Tulips has been nice, so that there isn't as much 3325, me going, oh my gosh, all this confetti. So far this project hasn't ramped up into full confetti yet. I'm expecting it to, because this artist is notorious for her confetti. But so far it hasn't been too bad, which is nice, because I haven't really been in a mood to work on confetti quite yet. The outer wreath is going to be full on confetti yet. Yes and no. There are sections that look kind of checkerboard confetti, which is kind of confetti, but not super bad confetti. The more I'm looking at the pattern, the less confetti I'm kind of seeing, than more of just smaller splotches of color. So we will see. The last 2 Teresa Wentzlers I did were full of confetti. And if we've heard from Saren and how much she loves green confetti with Pegasus, it makes me realize maybe I don't ever want to do that one. So I'm getting tired of all the green with the goose, which actually looks gorgeous, but it's like, oh, I'm so tired of the color green. Yeah, checkerboard confetti is fun. Because, well, the front kind of looks like the back and vice versa. Yes. I thought if you complete the rows color by color, the back and front look the same as the checkerboard confetti. Yes. Yes, they do. Fishhead! Hi, how you doing? Thank you for the host. I don't know why my alert isn't popping up. I may have to mess with Streamlabs after the stream. But thank you. I see it popped up in my chat. Welcome. I am working on Teresa Wentzler's Carousel Horse. I started this last week. You're here to ask me a question. What's up? I hopefully have an answer. It is intricate, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm working on the 28 count Joblin even weave fabric here. Your grime guard, what is its thickness? I made mine 6 inches wide. I think they were a bit wide. I was going off of, I made them 8 inches wide. I think I'm going to make my next set 6 inches wide before I fold it over to do the hem for the elastic. Words are here. So these were prototypes. I made a bunch of them. So I think my next set I'm going to do 6 inches and play. The whining in the background is my little one. My husband is going to go take her for her walk to put her to sleep. Seems to be the only thing working right now. And when that stops working, we will do something else. And as for the length of the grime guard, it depended on the size I was making it for. This is a 11 by 11 Q-snap, so I don't remember my measurements. I have it all written down somewhere, and which is not handy, of course. Yes, Elf, this is the horse's belly. And fish, you did one that was 5.5 and ended up being 3 inches, and you're afraid that was just a little too shallow. It really depends on how much excess fabric you have. This one's seeming to work pretty good. The ones I made that were for 11 by 8 have a little too much overlap, so I'm thinking if I make it 6 inches before I hem it, it might work out better. We will see. .45 in length, 5.5 in width for 11 by 11. I don't remember how long I made one, but it was longer than 45. I know that much because I had to combine 2 pieces of fabric to make it work, 2 pieces of the strip to make it work. I found a tutorial online that looked pretty good. I followed it to the letter. I don't remember which website I found it. I just Googled how to make a grime guard. It was one of the first couple that popped up. And did all of that before I took over this space and used my sewing machine. I do need to make a few more. I've got a bunch of fabric that I borrowed from stole from my mom because she's not getting it back to make grime guards, so I'll have to borrow some more from her. And you did fat quarters into the math. It was like 11 times 4 plus 1. I think what I did was 11 times 4 plus 2 plus 3. I don't remember. It worked out pretty well. I'll have to find that link and I'll link it in your Discord to show you what I did. But I think the 8 inches wide was too much. I did a 1 centimeter rolled hem to do the pocket for the elastic, and I think it was a 1.5 centimeter hem on joining together. Elf, you think you made yours 6 inches for elastic. It's a little slim for the Pokemon purely because you have a lot of extra fabric. Yeah, that's where it kind of comes down to, is how much extra fabric do you have. For this one's seeming to do pretty good. I don't have a ton of extra fabric, but I do have some because it's bigger than 11 by 11. Whereas on my ones I made for 8 by 11, I have way too much pocket. you don't have the 11 Q-snap to test it. You don't use frames for the most part, so you're either going to give it away or sell it. It may be worth picking up the frame or something similar, like an 11 by 11 frame of some sort, to kind of give an idea if you're worried about how the fit's going to be. Increasing the width by another inch might work. Yeah, as it comes to doing stuff like the math like that with sewing, that is actually not always my strong suit. My mother is the better seamstress, even though my skills extend to making grime guards and simple, straight fabrics. I'm going to get the 11 by 11 frame tomorrow. He was just curious. Understandable. Yeah, I started using the grime guard when I started using Q-snaps, and I really like it. I do like having the tension of my fabric, though. I manhandle my Ada cloth so much that it doesn't hold the stiffness that it tends to. So for me, having the stitching in a tight frame really helps. I do like that with the Q-snap, the tension doesn't waver as much as like a traditional embroidery hoop does. Same to. So. Same depth on your 11x11 was too skinny, but you put it on your 8x11, it seemed perfect. And fish, you haven't sewn in 8 years. I do minor sewing. Would like to get better at it. I need to start being able to make some of my own costumes because I realize I can't rely on my mom forever to make me costumes. Between her being busy and everything, I also should learn how to sew more than I do. And yeah, I do agree, a square is a little better than a circle, at least because you've got this grid that is square, and then you're stitching in a circle, which is not square. And last time you did any type of sewing, you finished a quilt, which you consider simple sewing. Yeah, depends on what you're doing with the quilt. I did a couple quilts while I was going into college. I made one for my dorm, and I made one for my the woman who would be my matron of honor for her when she went away for college as well. Hey, look, there's a horsey tummy. It's right there, horsey tummy. Done with that color for now. I usually like to count around to other colors, but because of the nature of this stitch, we're going to be working in blocks at a time just so I don't lose count and have to frog out a lot of stitches. Because there's nothing more frustrating than doing a lot of work and realizing you're off by 1 or 2 stitches and have to completely redo exactly what you're working on. So where are we going next? I could go back into that. Go back into the ivory. The ivory's boring. So I'm trying to decide what color to work on next. I really want to go into some of the blue that's going to be coming up, but nothing really connects to that color yet, so I'm thinking I might jump into cream and white. I pulled out white, but I didn't pull out the cream. 712. Oh, yay! Starting the next page of your Pokemon Stitch. Which 2 are your favorite? I think I've already seen my favorite Pokemon in your stitch. I can't remember. I have to go look at your in progress. So Something Elf is working on this massive cross stitch. I think are you working on 28 count, 1/1? And it's all 151 of the original Pokemon, so all of them. It is awesome. I'm really impressed. And part of me goes, oh, I want to do that too. And I'm like, no, don't do that. That's a bad idea, Kaya. A really, really bad idea. 28 count, 1/1, 2-strand, half stitch. Okay. So instead of doing a full cross stitch, you're just doing half stitches. Which would make sense, 2/1. If you're going to go over 1, I would probably work 1/1 if I was going to do that. Yay, Rapidash 9-tails. Heather 1209. Thank you for the follow. My alerts aren't working right now, so I just looked up and I saw that. So if you're still here, I'm sorry I missed that. And Sandy Lou, who also thank you for the follow. I'm Kayariana, or Kaya, and I'm doing some cross-stitching, working on Teresa Wentzler's carousel, a summer carousel horse. There's a whole series of them. There are 4. I'm working on my first one of the 4. So there's one for each season. And we're talking about Elf's Pokemon stitch, which is epic and massive. And you're halfway done, if I remember correctly. And you've been in progress for close to a year. So that's kind of impressive. Most of my projects that have been in progress that long, I've never worked consistently on because I get bored and then it gets put away for a year or two. Working on that, doing better with my works in progress. I don't know why I just did that. I'm working on a blended color and I just brought out 2 strands of the same color, and I really only needed 1 strand. I have not had enough caffeine today. It's kind of a cool sketched out look at the Pokemon. Going rather quickly. Yeah, next month is a year and you're already past the 50% mark. That is awesome. So this time next year, or actually March next year, we'll see a finish. Because that will look... because that would be awesome. Okay, let's try this again. Since I will be working some neutral colors on neutral, so it's not going to show up very well. I apologize. But thank you for coming by for conversation at the very least. Now the trick of making these match about the same length, since I'm cutting the white for the first time. There we go. All right, time for bedtime. Yeah, have a good night, Fish. I'm sorry. I wanted to get on earlier, but I worked till 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. So by the time I got home, ate dinner, took care of my little one, it was going to be later for the stream. So unfortunately, some of my streams coming up are on the later side, but hopefully I'll get there early. You're going to go lay down with some bourbon, but you'll still lurk. Hey, yeah, and nothing wrong with whiskey. I'm more of a Scotch girl myself, but I do like a good bourbon as well. Sleep is for the weak, is that what you're saying, Sandy Lou? Sleep is something that I kind of miss. I have an 8-month-old, and we sometimes get to sleep, and other times we don't get to sleep. Last night she decided at 4 o'clock in the morning that it was time to be up, and that was not fun. And then once I was finally up at 5, she decided it was time to go back to sleep. But that is how that works. And Elf, you would like to be able to finish in the next 4 months. You had a couple months break. Okay. And that's on top of all the other works in progress you have? So I know you're like me and have multiple going on. That's always the hard part, is keeping your whips under control. So far I'm doing okay. I have not started any new projects recently, so yay! Okay, now where am I going besides Crazy, which for me is a very short trip. But it's fun. Thanks for joining me on my crazy trip. You're going to put most everything on the back burners until you finish Pokemon, with little interrupts to work on cats and dogs through time, I'm guessing. Elf and I are working on a couple of the same stitch-alongs right now, so she just finished Goose and Tulips. This is one I'm working on. If you're curious to see my project of Goose and Tulips, I recommend checking out my Instagram. I am at Kayariana on Instagram, and I do post semi-regular updates on where my stitch is going. Not always every day, but sometimes every 2 days. And then, the summer style. For summer stitch-along, we're going to be doing making biscornus. So that will be exciting. I did pick up my pattern today for that. And in case you don't know what a bisque cornu is, it's like a little geometric pincushion thing. They're cute. Figure I could use my bisque cornu to hold a bunch of my needles. Did finally make a needle book, so I have that, which helps, but I'm really good at losing needles. More of I put it somewhere and now I can't find it than actually dropping them on the ground, because no one wants to step on a needle. So while it's hard to tell, I am working in a blended color. I'm using 712, which is cream, and white. So showing up on the ivory colored fabric doesn't show up that much, but once we start to establish all the stitches around it, you're gonna see more. The one problem with doing neutral colors on neutral fabric is you can't always see them, which is why I wanted to work on the horse's stomach for a while so we could get that shape established. On her website I have this fuchsia bisque cornu pattern, but I'm thinking I'm going to change colors a little bit, do pink purple instead of pink white. Yeah, I don't see why not. Nothing wrong with changing colors in a pattern, especially if it's all for personal use and have no intention to sell it. Though when you're changing colors, it gets kind of tricky with displaying it on a blog or on your Instagram, because you want to give the artist full credit for what they've done. You have sparkle threads. Yay! Sparkle threads always make things awesome. I am liking that her palettes don't seem to have a lot of colors, and in fact, I think for the one that I chose, I'm only missing like one color. I was like, wow, that's a first. Though it will probably take a visit to all the Michaels and all the Joannes to find the color that I don't have. I can never make one trip to the fabric store or the craft store to get all the colors I need. Luckily, I do live in a suburban area, so there is access to multiple craft stores. And I can find all the embroidery floss sometimes. Yeah, I do have to pick up some sparkle thread for that, but I'm not worrying about that. I've got almost 2 months before I have to think about starting the bisque cornu. And by then, I can at least have the goose finished and have another page or two dented in my fish stitch. I have 3 pages left on the fish stitch. My goal is a page a month. I'm actually a page ahead because one of the pages didn't have a lot of stitching on it. So if things keep going the way that I'm going, it should be done by the end of July. So that will be nice. I don't know why I did that. I was thinking there was more over there, but I'm going to have to just backtrack just one stitch. That's not so bad. There we go. You pretty much have Joann's, Michael's, and Hobby Lobby per town, with 4 towns within 30 minutes in any direction. I've got a Joann's, I've got 2 Michael's within distance. The Hobby Lobby that is local is way out of the way, and I'm not a fan of their business practices, so the fact that they're not convenient means I don't have to visit them. But I do have a local needlework shop, at least I did. They're in between locations right now, so I can't go visit them, which is also probably a good thing. Spend all my money on floss and needlework shop. The LNS is local needlework shop. It's about 2 hours from you. You might make another trip to complete sparkle threads once you get the bisque cornu pattern. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. When I'm not visiting my local needlework shop, I do order from one on the East Coast online, so it's like shopping there in person. That was before I found my local one, because I was looking to where I could buy Krennic and Mill Hill beads, because Joann's doesn't really carry that. They did carry the basic colors of the blending filament for a while, like silver and gold and white, but now they've stopped pretty much carrying it, which is a bummer. But if it's not selling, you really can't blame them for that, because why should you carry something if it's not selling? Pardon me, I gotta look close to the pattern. I can't tell what symbol that is. That will be fun. Yeah, I think I've actually, the one I chose calls for gold Mill Hill. I've actually have some that I've managed to use on the last couple projects, so there's a positive. That's one less color bead I have to buy, because I have to have all the things to finish all the projects. Though, it'll be interesting going to doing some beadwork. It's been difficult for me to do any beadwork with having a small baby. I did finish up 2 cross-stitch projects that had quite a fair amount of beadwork while she was still super little. Did it in between naps. Your Joann's had size 4 braid of silver and size 8 braid of gold, but even those are clearing out now. Yeah. It makes me sad that you can't seem to find a lot of the cross-stitching supplies. I know the crafts go in waves, but I've never seen such a surge of cross-stitchers, at least online. Locally, I still get people who see me cross-stitch in public and are like, "Are you doing needlepoint?" Doing kind of cross-stitch, similar, but not quite. And they get all in awe that I'm not have a pattern or anything printed on my fabric, that I'm just counting, and I don't know any other way to do it. So for me, it's kind of baffling. I've been stitching since I was really little, but yeah, that's it. The upside of your LNS is geared almost entirely to cross stitch. That's awesome. The one that's by me seems to be kind of all needle crafts, embroidery. They've got different, they've got the Krennic, they've got DMC. That's actually where I had to go to find some of the color variations, because Michael's had a bunch of them, but not all the colors I needed. Yeah, I did a couple projects with the color variations, which was really kind of neat to see how the colors changed. And those projects were the first time I'd ever worked with that line of the DMC floss, so that was neat. It's silly for you to do stamp cross stitch. You still have to have the pattern and count most of the time. And if they don't give a pattern, it's really difficult to tell which color you should use where. Yeah, that's the kind of, people look at me like, there's no pattern, not stamped. I'm like, no. Nothing wrong with doing stamp cross stitch. Just for me, it just seems kind of pointless, I guess. Is this where I'm going? Yes, this is where I'm going. I've seen like stamp cross stitch where some of the background was stamped on, but it wasn't necessary to make the cross stitching line up. And stamp markings at Matcha where they could, yeah. And I've also seen it where the stamping wasn't done well, so it doesn't line up nicely on the grid, and that would frustrate me more than anything. Now, my first stitching projects were, I never finished a lot of them. I didn't finish my first projects until I was much older. I would get bored, because I liked starting it, but I didn't like doing anything else with it. It's different when they stamp the background on like it's overdyed. I can do those. Yeah, I've seen a couple of that with the stitching, which is nice. Kind of gives a neat effect with having an overdyed fabric effect. right. So I am working white and cream on ivory, so it's not showing up very well. I am working right through here. This is part of the saddle of the horse. Though if I finish these colors, there is, I think, blue in there, maybe some pink, get some more colors. So it's a little easier to see what I'm doing here on stream. Okay, 2 and 1. My last few projects have been on Aida cloth, which is a much more easier to see grid. The grid's here on the even weave, but the Aida makes it much more defined and a little easier to find. If you're getting into cross stitching, I recommend starting on a 14 count Aida. It's much easier to tell where you're going. I have a couple projects on 18 count, so they're much smaller. I work on those and I go to my 14 count project and go, holy cow, these are big holes. What is going on with my music? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not into this song. There we go. Okay, there we go. It's harder to split squares on Aida than it is on even weave. Yes, it is, because on even weave you can actually have a hole to put, if you're working on over 2, you have a hole to put your split stitches through. On Aida you have to make your own hole, which is where the trouble I'm having on my Dogs Through Time stitch. I've got these, where am I going? These 3/4 stitches that I'm doing on 18 count, and making that little itty bitty hole to get through there is really difficult. Okay. So if I were to do it again, I would probably do a couple of my other ones either on an even weave, or at least go to a bigger count, a higher count Aida or lower count Aida, so that it's easier to split those stitches. And if you have anyone has any questions about cross stitching or anything about this craft, feel free to ask. I have been stitching for many years. You could argue I've been stitching since I was 3, but it wasn't really directed stitching until I was much older. So a lot of the terms I take for granted, I realize not everyone knows what they mean. It's always nice when you see that your counting has paid off and that things are lining up the way they're supposed to. Though it's a little hard to tell on the camera, I'm actually starting to get some structure here with this saddle, so I'm actually seeing some things. You think that a small reward project for finishing Pokemon will be to actually do your ship silhouette cross stitch. Oh yeah, that was the one you picked up at the needlework shop. That's gonna look so cool. do the same thing. I finish a massive project and I reward myself with starting a new one. So I'll have to figure out what my reward for finishing my ocelot will be. I started this ocelot almost 3 years ago, and it's just not holding my interest. I'll finish it eventually, and it'll be awesome when I do. And I'll be so happy. It'll give me an excuse to start another project. The one thing that's helping me, at least right now, stay focused on some of my bigger projects is doing the stitch-alongs. I'm doing 2 mystery stitch-alongs where each month a new part gets put out. One of them releases on the 1st of the month, the other releases on the 15th of the month. So it's great that I've got one in each half of the month. So it breaks up my big projects so that I don't get bored and frustrated, which I think is some of my biggest problems with a lot of my bigger cross-stitch projects. I get to the point where I'm like, and I'm bored. So I start another one, and then I end up with 10 works in progress. Your ship is only 6 by 6 inches, so you think it'll be a quick finish. Oh yeah, I find sometimes the quick stitches are really rewarding because they're pretty, they're simple, and you feel so good having completed a project pretty quickly, which is always a lot of fun. I've got a couple of those going on. I do take a smaller stitch with me to work sometimes when I can't take some of my bigger projects because of where I am. I do cross stitch on my breaks at work because I need something to do on my break at work besides sit there and watch television. And this is one that probably won't travel very much, if at all, even once I'm doing it off stream. I probably won't do it a lot off stream. I've got so many other projects to do, and it's nice having a dedicated time to work on this project, because these bigger stitching projects, sometimes it's hard to find the time to work on them, especially when you have so much else on your plate. Thought I had a knot there for a minute. So my challenge for this project is to see how neat I can keep my back. That is my personal goal and my personal challenge. If I can do it, I will be happy with myself, but it's not important or imperative that I have the perfect back. The downside of going back to work, stitching time will go from all the time to very little time. Yeah, I luck out. I actually get about an hour and a half of stitching time at work. Well, a little less than that, probably closer to probably about an hour and 10 minutes or so of stitching time dedicated at work each day. I am a nursing mom, so I have that time to take care of that at work. So I have a lot of time to just sit and do nothing. So I do get a chunk of my stitching done at work, which is nice. It kind of keeps me focused, keeps me relaxed, and that way I can have a lot of stitching, which is what's kept me kind of plugging away at so many of my projects. Also, my husband and I do a little bit of traveling on weekends to various areas of Southern California to do medieval tournaments, and we usually take the truck, and I don't like to drive a truck. So he does the driving, so I get to sit and stitch, which is nice. I can drive. Well, he can drive and I can stitch. I don't get car sick doing that, which is a plus. In fact, this weekend we'll be going down to where I grew up, where my parents are, for a tournament. I intend to be fencing. I do historical sword fighting, which is a whole lot of fun. I have a lot of hobbies, I realize, but that makes life interesting, doesn't it? Yay for not getting car sick. You don't deal with it either, but some friends that are horribly susceptible to it. Wow, I can totally talk today. Yeah, I've never had a problem. I only do when I haven't eaten enough or I'm not feeling good to begin with. Do I have a problem in the car? But other than that, never have a problem. I've stitched on car trips even when I was growing up as a kid. My parents would do a lot of road trips, going camping up and down the coast. So had a lot of time to stitch in the car. Never did finish any of those projects. I kind of wonder what happened to them. I wonder if my mom still has them. Let's see. I think we're going to finish that off here and move to another location. So in my effort to keep my back neat, I will be doing starts and stops in different areas. So I'm not carrying over a lot of different floss over different lengths. Only time you get motion sick is flying in traffic patterns for training when we were then circling our own exhaust for hours at the time, but that never happens anymore. I get motion sick on boats. I do better if I take Dramamine, or for what the other one is that doesn't make you drowsy. So when I was 6 weeks pregnant with my daughter, we went on a boat to Catalina Island, and yeah, I was able to take the motion sickness stuff, which is fine while you're pregnant, but I was still nauseous because I was suffering from morning sickness. It was not that much fun being nauseous on the boat the entire time. So, yeah, but it was a fun trip, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. You've never been out in the ocean, but not motion sick on lakes. It's a little different. I've never had a problem on a lake. I've only gotten really sick on super choppy water and on smaller vessels. So like on bigger boats, I tend to do better than I do on the smaller boats. But that's just the nature of rocking on the ocean. I think I had brought cross stitch to that as well. I don't remember which project I was working on then. I've had so many different projects. It's on my list of things to do is download pictures of my previous cross stitch projects and get a slideshow going in the corner of the screen. I also realized my chat's not on screen. Wow, I've really did not fix anything before I was going, so I'm actually going to take a break here in a little bit, and I'm going to fix my widgets so that we actually have screens going on, which would be kind of nice. We'll see what's going on with that. Leave it to me to have everything messed up. It's probably my fault more than OBS or Streamlabs. Been to the ocean, but never on a boat. Been on a boat a few times. My dad likes the idea of sailing and everything. He always wanted me to learn how to sail. I never learned how to sail. I like the ocean. I like the beach. I like knowing it's there more than I like visiting it. Spend time on Stream Elements for commands in your chat. Yeah, I've got to go through and figure out everything exactly. I haven't messed with it. There's probably a how-to FAQ out there somewhere, and I'll find it. My Google foo is okay. There we go. So yay, this is starting to come together. Yay! Cujo is on a boat. You are not on a boat right now, Cujo. I know that for a fact. Cujo SR is my husband, or Cujo Senior is my husband, and he is currently not on a boat. There appears to be a Streamlabs bot for commands now, but it seems like a pain to set up. Yeah, I was kind of messing with the Streamlabs stuff to figure that out, and I kind of feel like I need an FAQ once I get that figured out. Or I'll go look puppy dog eyed at my husband and say, "Sweetheart, can you help?" Oh, did you tell them why we were on that boat? We're talking about going to Catalina, right? As opposed to the other boat? Okay, so, well, we were on the boat to Catalina because you're friends with someone who does captaining for tall ships, and we were playing a video game on the boat. We were playing Artemis, which is a bridge simulator, like much like Star Trek without the licensing, where you need a computer for each position and someone's the captain. And we were playing that we were on a starship on a boat. So it was boatception. Yeah, I understand being too lazy to do setup. Did I get the story right, Cujo, about why we were on the boat? And then we went to Catalina and had fun on Catalina Island. Well, I was not being nauseous. So after I finish this row right here, I'm going to take a quick break, figure out why my alerts aren't working, and get that working here for the second half of the stream so that if anyone joins us, I won't miss any alerts. So I feel bad. Luckily, I do have my alerts open so I can see what's going on with new followers and whatnot. And Cujo says even more meta is the first time he played the Artemis game with our friend. He was on the Lady Washington. The Lady Washington was the stand-in for the HMS Enterprise in Star Trek Generations. So he was playing Star Trek on a boat that was in Star Trek. I thought you guys played on the Hawaiian Chieftain. I'm getting a shh from the other room. On a boat? Yeah. So I'm going to take a break, fix my alerts, and I will be right back. All right, I'm back. So I figured out what my problem was. I let my computer sleep while I had Streamlabs open, so highly recommend that you close out Streamlabs before you let your computer sleep. So yay, figured out the problem. Now my stream looks better. I'm like, there's a big empty spot. And my eyes were getting tired, so did have to remove my contacts. So yay for glasses, yay for being able to see. I put it to sleep when I went to bed last night, and I didn't think about it. But I'm running off a laptop, so letting it sleep was a little different. Night, Cujo. I'll join you eventually. Yeah, Cujo was up a little earlier than me with the baby. He let me sleep a little bit. He's such a good husband. He's best husband. So when working with blended threads, generally don't, I generally backtrack, go back. I usually put threads I'm using back on the bobbin type holder I'm using for my threads, unless I'm using blended threads. And then I create a project card so that I can keep track of my blended colors. So when I'm done with this section here, I will be switching colors again to probably work in here and actually get a pop of color. So, which will be nice, because I do like a pop of color. And Elf needs to figure out a way to block the basement behind you so you can get your face cam back up. Too much clutter. Yeah, I'm lucky I have a decent backdrop right behind me. I've got a shelf here that you can't see, which has all kinds of geeky, nerdy things on it. Then I have a couple posters here, so that works pretty well. And then directly behind my head is a picture of me and Donald Duck, because Donald Duck is the best duck. He is my duck. Yeah, but should I ever find a different spot to stream in, I will have to figure out exactly what the backdrop will be. This section is really nice because the lights are really good here, which is always nice. I like having good light for stitching. Could always get a green sheet and do some chroma key. Make yourself float on your screen. You feel it balanced lighting in your project and blowing up my face cam. Yeah, luckily here the light is really good. I have an overhead fan, so that it shines directly on the project and gives good ambient light on my face. It doesn't wash it out too bad. Not as worried about that. If I was, I would probably have different lighting set up. And the color on the camera is actually really good. Almost, it's pretty true to what I'm actually color-wise working on. You don't have anywhere to hang anything. Yeah, that can be a problem too. The problem with being in a basement, though I wouldn't quite understand having a basement in my own house, not a lot of basements in Southern California, which is ironic because I work in a building that has a basement. There's offices in the basement. And it's less about things flooding or any of the basement. We do have a slight earthquake problem in California, though we haven't had a big earthquake in a while. Actually, the last earthquake I really felt was when we first moved in here. When my husband and I were still dating, we moved in together. We've been here 3, 4 years. Which is nice. Most houses in Colorado have basements. We are also on the edge of Tornado Alley, so basements are the best location to hide out. Yeah, that is true. I would not probably know what really to do in a tornado. I've never actually experienced one. Again, I've lived on the West Coast my entire life, specifically in Southern California, so I'm of the opinion of what's a tornado. Also of the opinion of what's a hurricane, so. And for those of you who live in areas with such natural disasters, all the more power to you. And I'm drinking tea tonight. I usually like to have tea while I'm streaming. It's always a nice, relaxing cup to drink. I'm a bit of a tea nerd, tea snob. My husband rolls his eyes at the amount of tea I have collected. But I love tea so much. And you lived in Georgia, so you know the hurricane side too. Yeah, that's, for me, that's all baffling weather-wise. I don't do well in snow. I don't even do well in extreme heat either. And actually the weather here has been perfect the last few days. It's been in the low 70s, upper 60s. It's been gorgeous. Nice breeze. Been cool at night, which is really nice. Hopefully we won't have a bad summer. We didn't really have much of a winter. I use winter loosely. Here, we had some weird peaking heat wave days in the winter. You hit 70 and then it snowed and then back to 70. Yeah, we had a rainy day not too long ago. Well, actually it rained Thursday last week, and by rain, water came down from the sky for like 45 minutes and then stopped. So that was nice. We can use more rain. Been living in a drought forever. It was much better last year. We got good snowpacks up in the mountains. In fact, the day that we tried to go up to the mountains to have fun in the snow, we could not get up the mountain. We ended up going up to LA and checking out the Science Center and seeing the Space Shuttle Endeavour instead. Which you don't realize until you're standing in a room with the Space Shuttle how big they are. It's huge. They're prepping for a really bad fire year here because we haven't had enough snow this year. Yeah, I know that feeling. There is a website. www.californiaonfire.com. The answer is yes. In case you were wondering, California is always on fire. Even when it's not on fire, it's on fire. So I understand the wildfires and whatnot. One thing about Southern California is our wildlife. Our wildlife, not so much the animals, but the plants are designed to burn. A lot of the plants have high oil content and the like, so that they reproduce with the heat of fire. So all of our efforts of fire conservation are great until California hasn't burned in a while. And then it burns really bad. Alright, so finished with that part of that color. I do have a project card around here somewhere. There it is. And this was here. So I prepped my project card ahead of time so I could easily just tie off and go. So I have a card, it's got holes on it, and I have written the color and the symbol down so I can attach my thread to it. So I can go back to that color blend without losing where I was. So we're going to go, I think, into that symbol, which is blue violet light and blue violet mediums. So 340 and 341. So yay for some blue. Yay for some blue. That's not the color blue I want. Here's 341. And some 340. I may have to buy some more 341. I thought I had more than that. That's okay.
Take it, you could leave it. You could take it to the grave. But the more you retrieve it, the more that you'll say, and the more I find I'm letting go.
Alright, so we're doing another blended color, this time moving on to something that will actually show up. So yay, there is that.
Ready for this trip. I guess it's time I came to this. So long to you, Mr. Reckless. So long to you, Mr. I can't help this. So
And if I can even thread a needle today. That is the one problem with a face cam. You can watch me struggle to thread a needle much easier. There we go. Got the needle threaded. So let's see where we're going now. Okay.
tell me you've been working. You can tell me you've been strong.
All right.
Never really certain. 'Cause you never say you're wrong.
So this is where things are going to get hard for me to read. It shows in the pattern mostly 3/4 cross stitches. However, it's also showing the back stitching lines, so a lot of these lines are not, are the back stitching lines and not actually the stitch lines. So I'll be doing full stitches and then back stitching over them to give them the 3/4 look. So yay! There's a little bit of color. Let's see. Of course, now that I'm wearing glasses, I'm having a harder time. Okay, I think that's a W. That looks like a W. We're gonna say that's a W. I'm doing a little triangle shape right now, so. This isn't a nice computer-generated chart. This is a hand-drawn chart, which is a really cool, but sometimes the symbols are hard to read. Yeah, a little pop of color. Okay. Didn't realize there was such a rich purple in this. I was expecting more blue. I should have realized that because I bought the floss and I'm aware of the color palette, but there we go. All right. Worst time for them to still be working on the balcony repairs. We got hit with a heat wave starting today, and our bedroom opens up onto the balcony, but because of the repairs, you can't open it to try and cool the bedroom down. For Zeke to be happy about it. Oh, poor little Zeke. Yeah, I'm inland just enough that I don't get really good coastal breezes where we're at, which is kind of funny because I grew up a little more coastal. So I got a little more coastal breezes, though we were on the inland side. Here, I'm much further inland than I ever was growing up, or even in college. I went to college in Long Beach, so when beach is in the name of your city, there's probably a chance you're not too far from one. And my plan is to stream again tomorrow night. Same bat time, same bat channel. I realize it's Friday night, and many people may actually do things on a Friday night. I'm not quite sure what that's like. I never was much of one for going out, even on a Friday. My husband and I would usually stay in with movies, Netflix, and chill. And Hikari, you're currently sitting in the living room with the window just barely open, and then the fan on, trying to blast as much cool air as possible. Yeah, I know that feeling. Elf, do things. You know, do stuff, like with people, in places, and their stuff. I know, I don't get out as much as I probably quote-unquote should, but people are weird. I also fully admit that I am weird as well. But people are weird, people are scary. It's much more fun to sit in and cross stitch. Elf, you're with people right now, but we're separated by the internet. It's okay. Yeah, I work with the public, so I deal with people so much that by the time I'm done, I'm like, I'm done. I'm gonna go home now where there's no people. People are scary. See, that's different. Yeah. Because if you ignore people on the internet, it's not the end of the world. Yeah, I get that. I've gotten to a point that I've worked with the public for so long that I can kind of be personable and okay in public. I do not care for going out on outings. In certain cases, I'm like, I will much rather stay at home. Let me turn on Netflix. Let me have my cross stitching. Pick up my favorite tea. Or curl up with a book. That's my ideal night in. Maybe have some ice cream. So yay, we have more color in here. You can kind of, with this purpley color going in, we might be able to see a little bit more of that white that I've done. Trying to keep this in frame. If you don't really like clouds, but deploying screwed up my anxiety up to massive levels. The problem's been grocery shopping because people don't know what the personal space is. Yeah, I get that. I work in heavily crowded places a lot of the times. I don't know how I do it half the time. There's some days I just can't deal with people. I do have anxiety, and having a baby has not helped that. I will tell you that right now. She's amazing. I love her. But my anxiety in some cases has been through the roof. So I get it. I don't like to go. My husband's better about that. He is much more of an extrovert than I am. So he's definitely likes to be out and be with people. Or if I've had a rough day, I'm like, I can't people. I need to be alone. He's more likely to be able to go out with people. You're able to go to cons and be okay, of course. Cosplaying makes it a little different because you're not you. Yeah, I get that because you're dressed up as your character. You're playing a character, and you can kind of wear the character like a mask, for lack of better terms, and be someone else for a day. Which is probably why I've survived at work for so long. For me, it is putting on a costume and being a character at work. I am the Kaya that I am at work is not quite the same Kaya as I am at home and on. And here, you guys are getting more of the real me. Yay! A little bit everywhere. My brain. If you can follow some of my crazy tangents, I'm so impressed, which is awesome. As far as cons go, I do okay at the smaller cons. The really big, busy cons, I went to Star Wars Celebration a couple years ago, and that was too much for me. Even the D23 Expo has become too much. The busiest con I currently go to is Gallifrey 1, which is the Los Angeles Doctor Who convention. And that one is nothing in terms of busy compared to some of the bigger cons like Star Wars or even WonderCon or the dreaded Comic Con in San Diego. I know people who do San Diego Comic Con and do it every year, and I'm going, no. And I'm okay with that. Used to go to Dragon Con every year, no problems. I've heard neat things about Dragon Con. For me, it's the too many people in one space more than the crowd itself. Because it's one thing to be at a con and you're with people that are in the same fandom or excited about the same things as you, and you kind of feed off that energy. But when there's too many people, it's just overwhelming. You're okay in large con-esque crowds as long as you're not being pressed on all sides. And when it's in a group of 10 to 15 people, I'm expected to participate. I think over what I want to say, but usually I'm too late and actually think how to say it. Tell you about the elevators at Dragon Con, constantly max out weight limits, and you have to go up to go down and vice versa, and you never get there. Yeah, I bet so not last Gallifrey one, but the Gallifrey one before. Gallifrey is held at the LAX Marriott. And the LAX Marriott has recently been going under some major refurbishments and renovations. And the weekend of Gallifrey 1, there were 2 working elevators in the 6 elevator bank. And we were on the 4th floor, so we learned there was a second elevator that went to, because the way the LAX Marriott's laid out, it's got one straight tower, and then there's a kind of a loop around for, I don't remember how many floors that goes up, but we were on one of the floors that was part of the loop, so we were able to take the other elevator down to the lobby, and then take the escalator down to the ballrooms. And that got us where we needed to go, which was super nice. Where other people were stuck using the elevators, and it's like, This year wasn't so bad. Had all the elevators working. I got to share an elevator with Stephen Moffat, which was kind of interesting. Often I just hike the stairs down from the hotel room. Even 20 floors down, it was faster to hike than to wait for an elevator. Yeah, I have been in situations like that where it's like, yeah, I'm not waiting for the elevator, I'm gonna take the stairs. And then you get halfway down the stairs and go, why did I take the stairs? And then you're sharing elevators with people in huge costumes, and it gets to be all kinds of fun. Final Fantasy 14 FanFest in Vegas. Yeah, Vegas is not my favorite place to go. I'm just not into it. I have friends that are like, Vegas, let's go. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'll stay here. The last time I went to Vegas was for my friend's bachelorette party. I had fun, but it just definitely wasn't my cup of tea. I'm so much more of a homebody, which is funny because as much reenactment as I do, you'd think I would be more like, let's go out and do stuff. No, I'm good. I'll stay home. Though this weekend I will get to be out. If I remember to get pictures, I may post some. I'm notoriously terrible for getting pictures when I am actually in costumes and whatnot. It's like, you're too busy worrying about your costume to worry about taking pictures. You've been to Vegas twice, once for Vegas Comic Con as a vendor, and then to meet your boyfriend for vacation. Yeah, I could see that, since isn't your boyfriend's out here in California, right? And Vegas seems to be a much more central location for the two of you. So yeah, if I was in the same situation, I'd want to go to Vegas too. I've got myself a small knot. There we go. My handler is good for costume events. Yeah, at the very least, take pictures for you, even if it's a costume that you don't really need someone to help get you through places. Luckily, at a lot of the events that I do, there are people who take pictures and then share them with me later. So I get pictures. You had to fly, but he drove out. Yeah, it's from Los Angeles. Vegas is about a 6 to 8 hour drive, depending on how the traffic on Interstate 15 is. And how fast you drive. I've never flown to Vegas. I've only ever driven. And actually, the last couple times I went to Vegas, I was doing the Renaissance Fair out there, which is completely different because you're not on the strip and you're not doing that. So that's always nice. Oop, I see what I did. I went too far for my hole. I really need to stop getting these knots in here. There we go. Not gonna worry about that one right this second. You said it was like 4 hours drive there. Yeah, it depends on how fast you're driving and how the traffic is. If you ever try to drive to or from Vegas on a holiday weekend, not a good idea. I've done it Memorial Day weekend, and that was years ago when it was bad, and it's only gotten worse, of course. The problem is the road to Vegas, once you get out past a certain point on the 15, it is only 2 lanes each direction, so it's a little harder to He's technically from Chino Hills. For most people, to say LA. See, I know where Chino Hills is, but I also grew up in Southern California, so I know. And Elf, since you did Air Force, right? Probably know where my hometown is. I grew up in Oceanside. There's a Marine base right outside Oceanside, California. Most people are like, "Oh, where's that?" I just say San Diego. I'm from San Diego. Yeah, see, I wouldn't know where North Glen is. I'm guessing it's a suburb of Denver. And Final Fantasy Fan Fest. Instead of flying, we might be doing a road trip for some friends of ours. That sounds like fun. Super comfy, roomy truck. It'd be a lot of fun hanging out with them. The only thing would be Zeke and how to handle the prolonged drive. You just gotta take more stops. We The longest Annika, my little one, has ever been in the car has been, I want to say, 2.5 hours, something like that, because we did stop for lunch on our way to Great Western War last year, or breakfast. I don't remember what meal that we stopped for. It was one of those meals. I can't remember what time of day it was. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, my dad worked for the Navy as a civil servant, so he worked out of San Diego, but and most military people do know where Oceanside is. So unless you're military, you don't know that. Sometimes those larger landmarks are good. There we go, getting there, getting some border done, or some of the saddle done. If I can find the right place where I was. I'm getting myself off by one hole, which doesn't really work when you're working on even weave. It makes things a little funky. It would make things funky on Ada, but it would be easier to catch sooner than it would be on the even weave. Problem is I've missed a few stitches with colors. I may go in off stream and fix that, because it'll be a little easier than to do it on stream. But we'll see. Zeke's longest drive has been for just under an hour from your parents' house to the ferry terminal. Yeah, Annika's done the regular hour drive. My parents are an hour south. Well, give or take, depending on the traffic. So one thing you'll notice, at least Southern Californians will tend to describe distances and time it takes to get there, and usually add the qualitative, depending on the traffic. Because everywhere around me, what should take 45 minutes to get somewhere, can take an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on the traffic. I managed to get myself a knot. It's okay. Let's see where we're going next. Okay, so that's there. And up one. We'll go here. Yeah, I can't imagine for the little ones sitting in a car seat for that long can be super comfortable. We take my little one out of the car seat and she is just sweaty. It's like going to LNS technically with no traffic. I could do it in an hour, but traffic gets bad enough that generally takes me 2 hours. Yeah. It's probably good that they're not an easy, simple distance away so that you're not tempted to spend more money. So you can kind of see that purple in there. There is some neutral color right there between the purple and the gray of this horse's tummy. So yay for colors that stand out. Where are we going? Okay. Honestly, we're 5 minutes away, I'd be less likely to spend more money because then I'd be like, oh, if I need this, it's right there. Instead of, oh, well, I've got to get it all because it's a trip. Yeah, good point. That is a good point. Yeah, I do need more fabric to do more stitching. I did order some fabric from Naka to do my mermaid saw on. So that may be the next one I start. I haven't decided yet. I don't have all the floss for it, so that's also something. I don't have the full line of DMC. So much this, yes. Oh, it's just right there. That's like going to Joann's or going to Michael's. Let's see. Technically, the Michael's is closer than the Joann's, which is nice, though, but I like to go to both, because sometimes you need stuff that's at Joann's, and sometimes you need stuff that's at Michael's. Sometimes you need to go to both. You kind of want to do the Sassy Mermaids, but at the same time, my head screams, too many projects. Yeah, I saw the Sassy Mermaids, and I went, oh, that is so my friend. I need to get this. I have to do this for my friend. And I showed her the first one. She's like, I need this in my life. And I said, yeah, this is going to be in your life. I'm going to stitch this for you. We get the next part of the mermaid Sal on the first. I probably won't get to stitch it until it's all done, but I had to jump on it because I'm like, I need this, and I need this in my life now. And that way I can still, when I stitch it, still stitch it like a Sal and only do one month at a time. Help space it out. The problem is those Sals are so addicting. Because it's only like, oh, I only have to do a little bit now, and then I can put it aside for a month. Yeah, that's how they get you. Michael's around here tends to be kind of crappy for stock, but the only thing they can good for are beads, floral stems, and frames. Yeah, my Michaels used to have a much better cross-stitch stock, and I've noticed they've been kind of liquidating it lately. And I was like, no! But they still do tend to carry the full line of the basic DMC. I don't know if they have the new 35 colors. I haven't seen those in store anywhere yet. So, but then again, I haven't really looked hard for the new colors. We will see whether Michael's and or Joann's carries them soon enough. I only have one project that calls for one of the new colors, and I actually bought it as a kit, so I have the color. Yeah, none of Michael's have kits, limited fat. Yeah, the fabrics I usually have are just some Aida and maybe some Charles Craft even weave, but they used to have a much better selection, and then they started getting rid of kits. And I don't always want a kit, but sometimes it's nice to just pick up a kit and have everything there, and all you have to do is just go. New colors haven't really hit the retail shops yet. Yeah, I figured as much. I am working on updating my DMC spreadsheet that keeps track of what colors I have and what projects I have them in, so I know when I can go, but I swore I had that color, I can go, oh, it's in this project, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna need to get more of that. Or, no, I can wait then. Kits are your kryptonite because it's easy to explain the cost and say the mats would be 3 times as much sometimes. Yeah, though luckily I haven't seen any kits in a long time that have said, yes, you need to stitch this. I picked up a dragon kit at Joann's many years ago on sale, and I haven't done anything with it other than open it, edge of the fabric, and that was it. Close Michaels does more kids crafts and jewelry materials. They only have half file of stitching and sewing materials and have like 4 full aisles plus several large bin aisles of yarn. Yeah, that's kind of how Michaels has gone for me. Where cross stitching used to be at least a full aisle both sides, now it's like half an aisle if you're lucky. And it makes me sad. Though Michaels, the cashier at Michaels and Joann's usually will ask me, "Do you find everything you need?" And I'll say, "You were out of this many colors of DMC." And they kind of look at me like, "Oh, well, what do you want me to do?" I'm like, "Just letting you know." Now I have to go to Michaels or Joann's or both. Yeah, I haven't found overall a better source online for DMC I mean, you've got 123 Stitch or Everything Cross Stitch, and it's just as much to have it shipped there. So I don't find it worth it. I tend to get more specialty threads online, like my Krennics and some of the metallic threads. Michaels doesn't have much yarn. It's partial to aisle sewing and needle art and yarn and one more aisle. I think my Michaels has more yarn, at least here. Crochet seems to have gotten really big again. So I know plenty of people who do the arigurumis and make hats and scarves out of crochet, so they have a lot of that. I think my mom gets her yarn at Michael's. She might get it at Joann's, I'm not sure. But my mom does crochet. She also sews and cross stitches, but she hasn't cross stitched as much as she used to. That tends to be my domain. You can order online from your LNS for the Krennics and specialty threads. Yeah, Krennic has such an amazing line of their braid. I'm just amazed at the number of colors that it has. If you ever do anything by Joan Elliott, she tends to do quite a bit with the Krennic braid, which is so much easier to work with than the Krennic blending filament. I like working with the Krennic braid. It's not too bad. Sometimes it gets frays and gets kind of annoying, but I find it easier than the blending filament. Let's see. It's great for when you want to do quick projects, but if I want to do anything more specialized other than scarves, shawls, socks, gloves, etc., look elsewhere and online. Crochet is the best. Hey, Mom! I see you're still up. Yeah, I dabble in my head about picking up crochet again, and I'd have to get all the stuff, and I really don't think Cujo would be so happy if I picked up another hobby. We'll stick with cross stitching. It's safer that way. Yeah, so we actually worked a little bit on the saddle today on the horse. Your sewing maid costumes. More for Shrek. I want to do more thread crochet, but because I haven't been able to get my colors other than whatever ivory, black, blue, green, I've been putting it off on the side. Yeah, I get that. Sometimes you can't find the colors you need. You have a work in progress you get working on because this 18 count Ada has 4 strands of embroidery floss plus 2 strands of blending filament in places. Talk about too much floss for the whole size. Yeah! 4 strands through 18 count Ada? Is that the eagle you're working on? I did a project that did 3 strands for 28 count Monaco. No. You're working for an indie film. Okay. Okay. I'm kind of getting in a position where I'm going to need to do another thread switch, but we're getting kind of late. I was going to work for another 10 minutes, but I think sleep is starting to catch up with me. But there's what we've done today. So we've got the horse's stomach established, got some of the white in here, and then some of that purple going on there. That's going to turn in some more blue. So yeah, I think we made pretty good progress today. And I will be back tomorrow night as well, doing more work on this. If it gets to a point where this gets too much, I may break it up with some of the smaller other things I'm doing to get a little variety on the stream. But for the most part, it is going to be mostly the carousel horse moving forward. So if you enjoyed coming by, thank you. I appreciate everyone who stopped by to watch the stream. I had a lot of fun, and conversations is always great, more than just talking to myself. So I want to thank everyone for stopping by, and I hope to see you guys again tomorrow night. And if not, I understand it is Friday night, so go out and have a good time. You're gonna let it sit in your working project for a while. Yeah, that's kind of where I am at my ocelot. Here, I actually have right here. I'll give it a show before I sign off. So here is my ocelot that I'm working on, and so I'm probably a little more than half done on it, but it just is not holding my interest. And I still have it on a hoop because I'm out of Q-snaps, and I started on a hoop and I left it on a hoop. But someone pointed out that I did all the fun stuff in the cat's face, so doing all this through here has gotten kind of boring. I'm chugging away at it. I put it aside again for a while. I probably won't pick it up again until I get something else finished. Thank you, Hikari. It is gorgeous. I think it's a gorgeous pattern. It's just not doing anything for me. So I'm like, alright, I'll keep stitching. So, yeah, I got some more done. I've got some here. Kind of trying to get this section done so that I can move up here. And once I finish down here and move up into this corner, I'll probably be more inclined to work on it because I'll have, like, okay, the end is getting closer. This is my oldest work in progress right now. I've had it in progress since the end of 2015. If I get this one finished, I'll have nothing older in progress except for this year because I finished up all my other works, which is amazing. So with that, I am going to call it a night. I want to thank again everyone for joining me today, and it has been a lot of fun. Yes, exactly, Elfie. It's just a point where the end is in sight, and you're like, I've got to finish this project. That's what happened with a couple of my others. I'm like, it's right there. I can see it. Let me finish it. So you guys, everyone have a good night. Sleep well, and if I see you tomorrow, great. If not, I understand. And thank you again, once again, for joining me. And if you're still around, thank you for the follows earlier, and for those of you who hosted, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And with that, we're going to call it a night. And have a good night, everyone. Sleep well. See you later.